Weeks ago, Duluth Edison charter student brought an unloaded gun to the school, and days ago, a student threatened to bring a gun to school. Now, these acts, along with violence across the nation, are sparking change at our local schools. Northern News Now's Cara Kopp tells us how Northland districts are taking the issue of security seriously.
Ryan Dickinson's been a teacher at North Star Academy for more than a decade and woke up Tuesday morning thinking about how drastically things have changed.
Buildings weren't even locked 18 years ago. Like, you could have visitors and people would come in, and there were so many more community members coming in and out of our schools.
But now each morning, Dickinson walks the halls ensuring all doors are locked and leads open discussions about gun violence in schools.
You know, your back custodial door, like, we need to make sure everything is locked down, and we talk to our kids about those things too. And that's a big change.
Teachers, parents, and students have all felt the effects that gun violence has had on schools around the nation. Now, North Star Academy administrators are putting forth efforts to bring in funding for safety procedures they wouldn't otherwise have. North Star Academy is a charter school and does not receive state funding to implement extra safety measures unlike traditional schools.
You know, we have done some security measures here as well, but, you know, there's more that we can do.
While traditional public schools receive $36 of state money per student for security funding, charter schools receive $0. School administrators say that should change.
And we do look at a lot of grants as well, but the legislature needs to provide equitable funding for every public school child.
An increase in school security to match the increase in school shootings nationwide.
We have to protect their kids first and foremost, whether that's their physical safety or their academic records or things like that. And we take those things very seriously.
In Duluth, Cara Kopp, Northern News Now.
Administrators at North Star Academy want to remind parents and students, if you have worries, reach out to the school. They say if there's anything you or your child needs, they will do their best to accommodate.